Welcome to Reddit Reader. What rules were created just because of you? I can't prove this, but they got rid of $20 all-you-can-eat sushi soon after I discovered it. My great uncle had a stop sign installed in his honor. He had 3 crashes at the same intersection. Given that it was the 60s at his cottage in the middle of absolutely nowhere, he was probably driving drunk. My high school banned putting anything on your cap and gown for graduation, any decorations like buttons, stickers, etc. During graduation orientation, I stood up and said that this rule violates a Supreme Court case, Tinker versus Des Moines. Students wore black armbands to school to protest the Vietnam War, and it was ruled constitutional. Their response was to ban me from graduation, but then teachers and students rallied behind me and allowed me to graduate. And we were able to decorate our caps and gowns. Our old apartment probably updated their lease agreement to state no rodents, including rabbits, after I lawyered them into letting us have a rabbit. Rabbits are lagomorphs, not rodents. The exchange of gifts on the last day of school is apparently now prohibited. All I did was buy a couple gross of bouncy balls and give one to everyone I could. When I was in middle school, there was a cafeteria and a kitchen beside it. The kitchen had a lock on the door and garage doors that slammed over the windows. The windows were quite big, so that more than one kid could be fed at a time. My sister and I had forgotten spoons for our pudding and were hungry and dumb, so we snuck out of class and headed into the cafeteria. The door of the kitchen was locked and the garage doors were shut. I think you know where this is going. At the time, I was strong and bulky for my age, while my sister was athletic and small. So I held up the garage door and she slid through the window, grabbing both of us a spoon. We ate our pudding and rushed back to class, sure we were fine. The next class period, we were both called into the principal's office. You guessed it, we got caught. The janitor had been cleaning and decided to watch the security cameras for a moment. He caught me lifting the door. Barring the fact that it's weird that the janitor did this, we got in trouble. A lot of trouble. In conclusion, you aren't allowed to attempt to open the garage doors anymore. They also keep spoons in a locked cabinet. That you couldn't finish the work 2 months ahead of time. My parents made me do work way ahead of time, and instead of greeted with, "Good job, you're on top of this," I was greeted with this rule. Thanks a lot. Really motivated me. When I was a kid, I lived 1 block away from my elementary school. I was to walk there by myself, so my mom thought the safest option would be to send her 6-year-old through the neighboring apartment complex's yard. There were no fences, and the yard went through the block, so I would emerge exactly in front of my elementary school. I walked through the yard 2 times a day, once to school, once back. No noise, barely footprints. But for some reason, the apartment complex had a few residents who didn't like that. In about a month, they had gotten huge no trespassing signs on both sides of the yard. It was all me. I had never seen other people go through there. I was in music in high school. Piano was my first instrument and saxophone was my second. In my free time, I also took violin lessons. I quickly liked violin a lot more than saxophone. I wanted to follow violin in my high school as well. I no longer desired to play the saxophone. They had never had a student change second instruments, so they had to make up rules for it. The most important requirement was that my violin playing had the same level as my saxophone playing. So the rule was that if you wanted to change second instrument, you had to have the same level in both. That one was invented because of me. When I was a kid, I used to be a very picky eater, leaning towards the unhealthy side of food. Our cafeteria used to only sell healthy snacks for kids, but started selling some junk food after my parents asked to. Not me, but this is still funny. Someone was drawing penises on the stalls in 6th grade, so they made it a rule that a teacher would stand in the bathroom and watch the kids, as well as you couldn't go during class, only in between classes, so if you were on a poop schedule, it. They never caught the person who did it and eventually abandoned the rule, but for a solid 2 weeks there were teachers standing in the bathroom staring over our heads while we used the urinals and checking our pockets before going into the stall so we didn't have anything to write with, and checking the stall after we were done. Eventually the teacher just stood in front of the door and waited for everyone to get out, then checked the stall before the bell rang. The lines for the bathroom were extremely long because of this rule, and to this day, nobody knows who did it. Don't forget to like this video if you liked it, dislike if you disliked it, and subscribe so you don't miss our next upload.